Welcome to the Reality Revolution. I'm your host, Brian Scott, and I'm overjoyed today to discuss success. In particular today, I wanted to discuss the 7 keys to success and the 7 lies of success, as discussed by several different motivational speakers, including Tony Robbins and Maxwell Maltz. Tony Robbins in Unlimited Power has a chapter on the lies of success, these particular attitudes that you need to take to find success. And Maxwell Maltz in his book, Psycho-Cybernetics, talks about the 7 keys to success. And I wanted to combine these two a little bit and talk about them because we really haven't talked about success on the channel as much. Success is its own sort of genre, and it's an idea like when we use the word abundance, what does that mean? So everybody has a certain definition of success. Success is really hitting the mark. It is when your visualization and your reality creation occurs perfectly, when you reach that fulfilling end and you're good at it, you're looked at as being successful in this manner. And so there are several habits and ideas that go into becoming successful that I think we all can share. If you go back over your lives, I'm sure that you will notice if you carried certain attitudes, then you will find a huge change in your life. I'm reminded today because if you've been following the channel for a long time, today's the day when I woke up this morning and my Facebook account was completely shut down, and the Facebook group, the Reality Revolution, which has been a wonderful group, almost a family, almost 9,000 people were in the group, and just got completely shut down. No warnings, and we have no idea why. It was a pretty strict group. We didn't really allow any discussion of pendulums or any controversial ideas. Mostly it was people talking about their own process in reality creation and asking people to imagine for each other, and sort of a family atmosphere. I've always eliminated any major conspiracy talk or anything crazy. And I had several administrators that I asked to help me, and they were helping me, and all the administrators got shut down as well. And so in the past, not understanding how reality creation works, or specifically reality transurfing, when something happens in your life, oftentimes the key is how you react to it. And I had to remind myself in that moment, I'm still in the middle of it. I don't know what's going to happen, but everything is working to my advantage. I never, even for a second, did my heart skip a beat or was I worried about it, because it didn't matter. It was a wonderful thing, but everything is changing. Everything is working to my advantage. I'm constantly visualizing for my future, and I'm visualizing for a better future with large sums of money coming to me easily and quickly, and success in all the things that I do. And so I love to go back to these older writings, and they're such powerful reminders of success. It is a very unique kind of genre that is different than a lot of the other authors I've covered. Particularly, Tony Robbins is the pinnacle to me. He is one of the most amazing speakers ever, and I have seen him so many times and read all of his books. And Maxwell Maltz is also one of the all-time great in self-help. His book, Psycho-Cybernetics, really captures the unique ability to change your self-image. He was a plastic surgeon and sort of did a spiritual facelift for people, going deep and understanding if you can build up somebody's confidence, then you can change their life. And they both kind of outlined what they saw as some success principles. As Maltz begins, just as a doctor learns to diagnose disease from certain symptoms, failure and success can also be diagnosed. The reason is that man does not simply find success or come to failure. He carries their seeds around in his personality and character. I have found one of the most effective means of helping people achieve an adequate or successful personality is to, first of all, give them a graphic picture of what the successful personality looks like. Remember, the creative guidance mechanism within you is a goal-striving mechanism. The first requisite for using it is to have a clear-cut goal or target to shoot for. A great many people want to improve themselves and long for a better personality, who have no clear-cut idea of the direction in which improvement lies, nor what constitutes a good personality. A good personality is one which enables you to deal effectively and appropriately with environment and reality, and to gain satisfaction from reaching goals which are important to you. Time and again, I have seen confused and unhappy people straighten themselves out when they were given a goal to shoot for and a straight course to follow. There was the advertising man in his early 40s, for example, who felt strangely insecure and dissatisfied with himself after receiving an important promotion. New roles require new self-images. It doesn't make sense, he said. I've worked for this and dreamed about it. It's just what I've always wanted. I know I can do the work, and yet, for some reason, my self-confidence is shaken. I suddenly wake up, as if from a dream, and ask myself, what in the world is a small potatoes like me doing in a job like this? He had become super sensitive to his appearance and thought perhaps that his weak chin might be the cause of his discomfort. I don't look like a business executive, he said. He felt plastic surgery might be the answer to his problem. There was the housewife, whose children were running her crazy, and whose husband irritated her so much that she teed off on him at least twice a week for no cause. What is the matter with me, she asked. My children are really nice kids I should be proud of. My husband is really a nice guy, and I'm always ashamed of myself afterwards. She felt that a facelift might give her more confidence and cause her family to appreciate her more. The trouble with these people, and many more like them, is not their physical appearance, but their self-image. They find themselves in a new role and are not sure what kind of a person they're supposed to be in order to live up to that role. Or they have never developed a clear-cut self-image of themselves in any role. The picture of success. In this chapter, I'm going to give you the same prescription that I would give you should you come to my office. I have found that an easy-to-remember picture of the successful personality is contained in the letters of the word success itself. The success-type personality is composed of S, sense of direction, U, understanding, C, courage, C, charity, E, esteem, S, self-confidence, S, self-acceptance. First of all, the first key is the sense of direction. The advertising executive straightened himself out and regained his confidence within a short time, once he saw clearly that for several years he had been motivated by strong personal goals, which he wanted to attain, including securing his present position. These goals, which were important to him, kept him on the track. However, once he got the promotion, he ceased to think in terms of what he wanted, but in terms of what others expected of him, or whether he was living up to other people's goals and standards. He was like the skipper of a ship who had relinquished his hold upon the wheel and hoped that he would drift in the right direction. He was like a mountain climber who, as long as he looked upward to the peak he wished to scale, felt and acted courageously and boldly, and when he got to the top, he felt there was nowhere else to go, and began to look down and become afraid. He was now on the defensive, defending his present position, rather than acting like a goal striver and going on the offensive to attain his goal. He regained control when he set himself new goals and began to think in terms of, what do I want out of this job? What do I want to achieve? Where do I want to go? Functionally, a man is somewhat like a bicycle, I told him. A bicycle maintains its poise and equilibrium only so long as it's going forward towards something. You have a good bicycle. Your trouble is you are trying to maintain your balance sitting still with no place to go. It's no wonder you feel shaky. We are engineered as goal-seeking mechanisms. We are built that way. When we have no personal goal which we are interested in and which means something to us, we are apt to go around in circles, feel lost, and find life itself aimless and purposeless. We are built to conquer environment, solve problems, achieve goals, and we find no real satisfaction or happiness in life without obstacles to conquer and goals to achieve. People who say that life is not worthwhile are really saying that they themselves have no personal goals which are worthwhile. Prescription: get yourself a goal worth working for. Better still, get yourself a project. Decide what you want out of a situation. Always have something ahead of you to look forward to work for and hope for. Look forward, not backward. Develop what one of the automobile manufacturers calls the forward look. Develop a nostalgia for the future instead of the past. The forward look and a nostalgia for the future can keep you youthful. Even your body doesn't function well when you stop being a goal striver and have nothing to look forward to. This is the reason that very often when a man retires, he dies shortly thereafter. When you're not goal striving, not looking forward, you're not really living. In addition to your purely personal goals, have at least one impersonal goal or cause which you can identify yourself with. Get interested in some project to help your fellow man, not out of a sense of duty, but because you want to. Understanding. Key number 2. Understanding depends upon good communication. Communication is vital to any guidance system or computer. You cannot react appropriately if the information you act upon is faulty or misunderstood. Many doctors believe that confusion is the basic element in neurosis. To deal effectively with a problem, you must have some understanding of its true nature. Most of our failures in human relations are due to misunderstandings. We expect other people to react and respond and come to the same conclusions as we do from a given set of facts or circumstances. We should remember what we said in an earlier chapter. No one reacts to things as they are, but to his own mental images. Most of the time, the other person's reaction or position is not taken in order to make us suffer, not to be hard-headed nor malicious, but because he understands and interprets the situation differently from us. He's merely responding appropriately to what, to him, seems to be the truth about the situation, to give the other person credit for being sincere, if mistaken rather than willful and malicious, can do much to smooth out human relations and bring about better understanding between people. Ask yourself, how does this appear to him? Does he interpret this situation? Does he feel about it? Try to understand why he might act the way he does. Fact versus opinion. Many times we create confusion when we add our own opinion to facts and come up with the wrong conclusion. Fact: a husband cracks his knuckles. Opinion: the wife concludes, he does that because he thinks it will annoy me. Fact: the husband sucks his teeth in after eating. Opinion: the wife concludes if he had any regard for me, he would improve his manners. Fact 2. Friends are whispering when you walk up. Suddenly, they stop talking and look somewhat embarrassed. Opinion: they must have been gossiping about me. The housewife mentioned earlier was able to understand that her husband's annoying mannerisms were not deliberate and willful acts on his part for the purpose of annoying her. When she stopped reacting, just as if she had been personally insulted, she was able to pause, analyze the situation, and select an appropriate response. Be willing to see the truth. Oftentimes we color incoming sensory data by our own fears, anxieties, or desires, but to deal effectively with environment, we must be willing to acknowledge the truth about it. Only when we understand what it is can we respond appropriately. We must be able to see the truth and to accept the truth, good or bad. Bertrand Russell said one reason Hitler lost World War II was that he did not fully understand the situation. Bearers of bad news were punished. Soon, no one dared tell him the truth. Not knowing the truth, he could not act appropriately. Many of us are individually guilty of the same error. We do not like to admit to ourselves our errors, mistakes, shortcomings, or ever admit we have been in the wrong. We do not like to acknowledge that a situation is other than we would like it to be. So we kid ourselves. Because we will not see the truth, we cannot act appropriately. Someone has said that it is a good exercise to daily admit one painful fact about ourselves to ourselves. The success type personality not only does not cheat and lie to other people, he learns to be honest with himself. What we call sincerity is itself based upon self-understanding and self-honesty, for no man can be sincere who lies to himself by rationalizing or telling himself rational lies. Prescription: look for and seek out true information concerning yourself, your problem, other people, or the situation, whether it is good news or bad news. Adopt the motto: it doesn't matter who's right, but what's right. An automatic guidance system corrects its course from negative feedback data. It acknowledges errors in order to correct them and stay on course. So must you. Admit your mistakes and errors, but don't cry over them. Correct them and go forward. In dealing with other people, try to see the situation from their point of view as well as your own. The third key to success is courage. Having a goal and understanding the situation are not enough. You must have the courage to act, for only by actions can goals, desires, and beliefs be translated into realities. Admiral William F. Halsey's personal motto was a quotation from Nelson: "No captain can do very wrong if he places his ship alongside that of an enemy. The best defense is a strong offense," is a military principle, said Halsey, but its application is wider than a war. All problems, personal, national, or combat, become smaller if you don't dodge them, but confront them. Touch a thistle timidly, and it pricks you. Grasp it boldly, and its spines crumble. William Nichols, Words to Live By, Simon & Schuster, New York. Someone has said that faith is not believing something in spite of the evidence. It is the courage to do something regardless of the consequences. So why not bet on yourself? Nothing in this world is ever absolutely certain or guaranteed. Often the difference between a successful man and a failure is not one's better abilities or ideas, but the courage that one has to bet on his ideas, to take a calculated risk, and to act. We often think of courage in terms of heroic deeds on the battlefield, in a shipwreck, or a similar crisis, but everyday living requires courage too, if it is to be effective. Standing still, failure to act causes people who are faced with a problem to become nervous, feel stymied, trapped, and can bring on a host of physical symptoms. I tell such people, study the situation thoroughly. Go over in your imagination the various courses of action possible to you and the consequences which can and may follow from each course. Pick out the course which gives the most promise and go ahead. If we wait until we are absolutely certain and sure before we act, we will never do anything. Anytime you act, you can be wrong. Any decision you make can turn out to be the wrong one. But we must not let this deter us from going after the goal we want. You must daily have the courage to risk making mistakes, risk failure, and risk being humiliated. A step in the wrong direction is better than staying on the spot all your life. Once you're moving forward, you can correct your course as you go. Your automatic guidance system cannot guide you when you're stalled and standing still. Faith and courage are natural instincts. Have you ever wondered why the urge or desire to gamble seems to be instinctive in human nature? My own theory is that this universal urge is an instinct which, when used correctly, urges us to bet on ourselves, to take a chance on our own creative potentialities. When we have faith and act with courage, that is exactly what we're doing, gambling on, taking a chance on our own creative God-given talents. It is also my theory that people who frustrate this natural instinct by refusing to live creatively and act with courage are the people who develop gambling fever and become addicts of gambling tables. A man who will not take a chance on himself must bet on something, and the man who will not act with courage sometimes seeks the feeling of courage from a bottle. Faith and courage are natural human instincts, and we need to express them in one way or another. So be willing to make a few mistakes, to suffer a little pain, to get what you want. Don't sell yourself short. Most people says General R.E. Chambers, Chief of the Army's Psychiatry and Neurology Consultant Division. Don't know how brave they really are. In fact, many potential heroes, both men and women, live out their lives in self-doubt. If they only knew they had these deep resources, it would help give them the self-reliance to meet most problems, even a big crisis. You've got the resources, but you never know you've got them until you act and give them a chance to work for you. Another helpful suggestion is to practice acting boldly and with courage in regard to little things. Do not wait until you can be a big hero in some dire crisis. Daily living also requires courage, and by practicing courage in little things, we develop the power and talent to act courageously in more important matters. The fourth key to success is charity. Successful personalities have some interest in and regard for other people. They have a respect for other people's problems and needs. They respect the dignity of human personality and deal with other people as if they were human beings rather than as pawns in their own game. They recognize that every person is a child of God and is a unique individual which deserves some dignity and respect. It is psychological fact that our feelings about ourselves tend to correspond to our feelings about other people. When a person begins to feel more charitably about others, he invariably begins to feel more charitably toward himself. The person who feels that people are not very important cannot have very much deep down self-respect and self-regard, for he himself is people, and with what judgment he considers others, he himself is unwittingly judged in his own mind. One of the best known methods of getting over a feeling of guilt is to stop condemning other people in your own mind. Stop judging them, stop blaming them, and hating them for their mistakes. You will develop a better and more adequate self-image when you begin to feel that other people are more worthy. Another reason that charity toward other people is symptomatic of the successful personality is because it means that the person is dealing with reality. People are important. People cannot for long be treated like animals or machines, or as pawns to secure personal ends. Hitler found this out, so will other tyrants wherever they may be found. In the home, in business, or in the individual relationships. The prescription for charity is threefold. 1. Try to develop a genuine appreciation for people by realizing the truth about them. They are children of God, unique personalities, creative beings. 2. Take the trouble to stop and think of the other person's feelings, his viewpoints, his desires and needs. Think more of what the other fellow wants and how he must feel, or she. A friend of mine kids his wife by telling her whenever she may ask, "Do you love me?" Yes, whenever I stop and think about it, there's a lot of truth in this. We cannot feel anything about other people unless we stop and think about them. 3. Act as if other people are important and treat them accordingly. In your treatment of people, have regard for their feelings. We tend to feel about objects in accordance with the way we treat them. The 5th key to success is self-esteem. Several years ago, Maxwell Maltz wrote a contribution to the Words to Live By feature of This Week magazine on the words of Carlyle. Alas, the fearful unbelief is unbelief in yourself. At that time I said, of all the traps and pitfalls in life, self-disesteem is the deadliest and the hardest to overcome, for it is a pit designed and dug by our own hand, summed up in the phrase, "It's no use, I can't do it." The penalty of succumbing to it's heavy for the individual in terms of material rewards lost, and for society in gains and progress unachieved. As a doctor, I might also point out that defeatism has still another aspect, a curious one, which is seldom recognized. It is more than possible that the words quoted about Carlyle's own confession of the secret that lay behind his own craggy assertiveness, his thunderous temper and waspish voice, and his appealing domestic tyranny. Carlyle, of course, was an extreme case, but isn't it on those days when we are most subject to the fearful unbelief, when we most doubt ourselves and feel inadequate to our task? Isn't it precisely then that we are most difficult to get along with? We simply must get it through our heads that holding a low opinion of ourselves is not a virtue, but a vice. Jealousy, for example, which is the scourge of many a marriage, is nearly always caused by self-doubt. The person with adequate self-esteem doesn't feel hostile toward others. He isn't out to prove anything. He can see facts more clearly, isn't as demanding in his claims on other people. The housewife who felt that a facelift might cause her husband and children to appreciate her more really needed to appreciate herself more. Middle age plus a few wrinkles and a few gray hairs had caused her to lose self-esteem. She then became super sensitive to innocent remarks and reactions of her family. So stop carrying around a mental picture of yourself as a defeated, worthless person. Stop dramatizing yourself as an object of pity and injustice. Use the practice exercises to build up an adequate self-image. The word esteem literally means to appreciate the worth of it. Why do men stand in awe of the stars and the moon, the immensity of the sea, the beauty of a flower or a sunset, and at the same time downgrade themselves? Did not the same Creator make man? Is not man himself the most marvelous creation of all? This appreciation of your own worth is not egotism, unless you assume that you made yourself and should take some of the credit. Do not downgrade the product merely because you haven't used it correctly. Don't childishly blame the product for your own errors, like the schoolboy who said, "This typewriter can't spell." But the biggest secret of self-esteem is this: begin to appreciate other people more. Show respect for any human being merely because he is a child of God and therefore a thing of value. Stop and think when you're dealing with people. You're dealing with a unique individual creation of the Creator of all. Practice treating other people as if they had some value, and surprisingly enough, your own self-esteem will go up. For real self-esteem is not derived from the great things you've done, the things you own, the mark you've made, but an appreciation of yourself for what you are, a child of God. When you come to this realization, however, you must necessarily conclude that all other people are to be appreciated for the same reason. The sixth key is self-confidence. Confidence is built upon an experience of success. When we first begin any undertaking, we are likely to have little confidence because we have not learned from experience that we can succeed. This is true of learning to ride a bicycle, speak in public, or perform surgery. It is literally true that success breeds success. Even a small success can be used as a stepping stone to a greater one. Managers of boxers are very careful to match them carefully so they can have a graduated series of successful experiences. We can use the same technique, starting gradually and experiencing success at first on a small scale. Another important technique is to form the habit of remembering past successes and forgetting failures. This is the way both an electronic computer and the human brain are supposed to operate. Practice improves skill and success in basketball, golf, horseshoe, pitching, or salesmanship, not because repetition has any value in itself. If it did, we would learn our errors instead of our hits. A person learning to pitch horseshoes, for example, will miss the stake many more times than he will hit it. If mere repetition were the answer to improved skill, his practice should make him more expert at missing, since that is what he has practiced most. However, although his misses may outnumber hits 10-1, through practice his misses gradually diminish and his hits come more and more frequently. This is because the computer in his brain remembers and reinforces his successful attempts and forgets the misses. This is the way that both an electronic computer and our own success mechanisms learn to succeed. Yet what do most of us do? We destroy our self-confidence by remembering past failures and forgetting all about past successes. We not only remember failures, we impress them on our minds with emotion. We condemn ourselves, we flay ourselves with shame and remorse. Both are highly egotistical, self-centered emotions, and self-confidence disappears. It doesn't matter how many times you failed in the past. What matters is the successful attempt, which should be remembered, reinforced, and dwelt upon. Charles Kettering has said that any young man who wants to be a scientist must be willing to fail 99 times before he succeeds once, and suffer no ego damage because of it. Prescription: use errors and mistakes as a way to learning, then dismiss them from your mind. Deliberately remember and picture to yourself past successes. Everyone has succeeded sometime at something. Especially when beginning a new task, call up the feelings you experienced in some past success, however small it might have been. Dr. Winfried Overholzer, superintendent of St. Elizabeth's Hospital, has said that recalling brave moments is a very sound way to restore belief in yourself, that too many people are prone to let one or two failures blot out all good memories. If we will systematically relive our brave moments in memory, he says, we will be surprised to see we had more courage than we thought. Dr. Overholzer recommends the practice of vividly remembering our past successes and brave moments as an invaluable aid whenever self-confidence is shaken. And the seventh key to success is self-acceptance. No real success or genuine happiness is possible until a person gains some degree of self-acceptance. The most miserable and tortured people in the world are those who are continually straining and striving to convince themselves and others they are something other than what they basically are. And there is no relief and satisfaction like that comes when one finally gives up the shams and pretenses and is willing to be himself. Success, which comes from self-expression, often eludes those who strive and strain to be somebody, and often comes almost of its own accord when a person becomes unwilling to relax and be himself. Changing your self-image does not mean changing yourself or improving yourself, but changing your own mental picture, your own estimation, conception, and realization of that self. The amazing results which follow from developing an adequate and realistic self-image come about not as a result of self-transformation, but from self-realization and self-revelation. Your self right now is what it has always been, and all that it ever can be. You did not create it, you cannot change it. You can, however, realize and make the most of what already is by gaining a true mental picture of your actual self. There is no use straining to be somebody. You are what you are now. You are somebody. Not because you've made $1 million or drive the biggest car in your block or win at bridge, but because God created you in His own image. Most of us are better, wiser, stronger, more competent now than we realize. Creating a better self-image does not create new abilities, talents, and powers. It releases and utilizes them. We can change our personality, but not our basic self. Personality is a tool, an outlet, a focal point of the self that we use in dealing with the world. It is the sum total of our habits, attitudes, learned skills, which we use as a method of expressing ourselves. You are not your mistakes. Self-acceptance means accepting and coming to terms with ourselves now, just as we are with all our faults, weaknesses, shortcomings, errors, as well as our assets and strengths. Self-acceptance is easier, however, if we realize that these negative belong to us. They are not us. Many people shy away from healthy self-acceptance because they insist upon identifying themselves with their mistakes. You may have made a mistake, but this does not mean that you are a mistake. You may not be expressing yourself properly and fully, but this does not mean you are yourself no good. We must recognize our mistakes and shortcomings before we can correct them. The first step toward acquiring knowledge is recognition of those areas where you are ignorant. The first step toward becoming stronger is the recognition that you are weak. And all religions teach that the first step towards salvation is the self-confession that you are a sinner. In the journey toward the goal of ideal self-expression, we must use negative feedback data to correct course, as in any other goal-striving situation. This requires admitting to ourselves and accepting the fact that our personality, our expressed self, or what some psychologists call our actual self, is always imperfect and short of the mark. No one ever succeeds during a lifetime in fully expressing or bringing into actuality all the potentialities of the real self. In our actual expressed self, we never exhaust all the possibilities and powers of the real self. We can always learn more, perform better, behave better. The actual self is necessarily imperfect throughout life. It is always moving toward an ideal goal, but never arriving. The actual self is not a static, but a dynamic thing. It is never completed and final, but always in a state of growth. It is important that we learn to accept this actual self with all its imperfections, because it is the only vehicle we have. The neurotic rejects his actual self and hates it because it is imperfect. In its place, he tries to create a fictitious ideal self, which is already perfect, has already arrived. Trying to maintain the sham in action is not only a terrific mental strain, but he continually invites disappointments and frustration when he tries to operate in a real world with a fictitious self. A stagecoach may not be the most desirable transportation in the world, but a real stagecoach will still take you coast to coast more satisfactorily than will a fictitious jet airliner. So accept yourself as you are and start from there. Learn to emotionally tolerate imperfection in yourself. It is necessary to intellectually recognize our shortcomings, but disastrous to hate ourselves because of them. Differentiate between yourself and your behavior. You're not ruined or worthless because you have made a mistake or got off course any more than a typewriter is worthless which makes an error, or violin which sounds a sour note. Don't hate yourself because you're not perfect. You have lots of company. No one else is either, and those who try to pretend, they are kidding themselves. You are somebody now is the key to these teachings. So we have the 7 keys to success. There are also 7 lies of success. The world we live in is the world we choose to live in, whether consciously or unconsciously, Tony Robbins would say. And if we choose bliss, that's what we get. If we choose misery, we get that too. Our beliefs are specific, consistent, organizational approaches to perception. They're the fundamental choices we make about how to perceive our lives and thus how to live them. They're how we turn on or turn off our brain. So the first step toward excellence is to find the beliefs that guide us toward the outcomes we want. These are beliefs that you can have, and they can be false beliefs. They can be lies, as Tony Robbins explains. The path to success consists of knowing your outcome, taking action, knowing what results you're getting, and having the flexibility to change until you're successful. The same is true of beliefs. You have to find the beliefs that support your outcome, the beliefs that get you where you want to go. If your beliefs don't do that, you have to throw them out and try something new. People are sometimes put off when they hear the lies of success. Who wants to live by lies? But that is not what Tony Robbins means when he says that. Is that we don't know how the world really is. We don't know if the line is concave or convex. We don't know if our beliefs are true or false. What can we know? What we can know is if they work, if they support us, if they make our lives richer, if they make us better people, if they help us and help others. So don't be afraid of the idea of the word lie. So the first lie that Tony Robbins gives is everything happens for a reason and a purpose, and it serves us, which is the same thing that is talked about in reality transurfing. Everything works to your advantage. When you're constantly coming up against opposition or things happening in your life, assume it's working to your advantage. Everything happens for a reason and a purpose, and it serves us. Tony Robbins guarantees that people who think this way will see and produce outstanding results. Think about it in your own life. There are an infinite number of ways to react to any situation. Let's say your business fails to get a contract you had counted on, one that you were certain you deserved. Some of us would be hurt and frustrated. We might sit home and mope or go out and get drunk. Some of us would be mad. We might blame the company that awarded the contract, figuring they were a bunch of ignorant individuals, or we might blame our own people for ruining a sure thing. All of that might allow us to let off some steam, but it doesn't help us. It doesn't bring us any closer to our desired outcome. It takes a lot of discipline to be able to retrace your steps, learn painful lessons, mend fences, and take a good look at new possibilities. That's the only way to get a positive outcome from what seems like a negative result. Let me give you an example of this possibility. Marilyn Hamilton, a former teacher and beauty queen, is a successful businesswoman in Fresno, California. She's also the survivor of a terrible accident. When she was 29, she fell down a rocky cliff in a hang gliding accident that left her in a wheelchair paralyzed below the waist. Robbins gives this story about her, which is one of many examples. Marilyn Hamilton obviously is paralyzed, and she focused on the possibilities that were open to her. She acted in a different way. She managed to see the opportunity in tragedy. From the start, she was frustrated with her wheelchairs. She found them too confining, too restrictive. Now, you and I would have no idea how to judge the effectiveness of a wheelchair, but she figured she was uniquely equipped to design a better one. So she got together with two friends who built hang gliders and started working on a prototype for a better wheelchair. The three went on to form a company called Motion Designs, which is a multi-million-dollar success story. So if she had not had that tragedy, she would not have had that opportunity. Now, obviously she doesn't want to have the tragedy happen, but it was her reaction to it. So you know that she probably never sat down and figured out her beliefs. They were all unconscious beliefs, but she had the unconscious belief that everything happens for a purpose, everything is working to her advantage. Do you expect your best efforts to be successful? Do you expect things to work out well? To work out poorly? Do you see the potential in a situation, or do you just see the roadblocks? Many people tend to focus on the negative more than the positive. The first step toward changing that is to recognize that belief in limits creates limited people. The key is to let go of those limitations and operate from a higher set of resources. The leaders in our culture are the people who see the possibilities, who can go into a desert and see a garden. The second lie of success is that there is no such thing as failure. There are only results. This is very similar to the first belief, and it's equally important on its own. Most people in our culture have been programmed to fear failure. Yet all of us can think of times when we wanted one thing and got another. We've all flunked a test, suffered through a frustrating romance that didn't work out, put together a business plan only to see everything go away. These people don't see failure. They don't believe in it. It doesn't compute. People always succeed in getting some sort of results. The super successes of our culture aren't people who do not fail, but simply people who know that if they try something and it doesn't give them what they want, they've had a learning experience. They use what they've learned and simply try something else. They take some new actions and produce new results. What is the one asset, the one benefit you have today over yesterday? The answer, of course, is experience. People who fear failure make internal representations of what might not work in advance. This is what keeps them from taking the very action that could ensure the accomplishment of their desires. Are you afraid of failure? Well, how do you feel about learning? You can learn from every human experience and can thereby always succeed in anything you do. Mark Twain once said, "There is no sadder sight than a young pessimist." He's right. People who believe in failure are almost guaranteed a mediocre existence. Failure is something that is just not perceived by people who achieve greatness. They don't dwell on it. They don't attach negative emotion to something that doesn't work. There was a man that Tony Robbins mentions in his book, Unlimited Power, that failed in business at age 21, was defeated in a legislative race at 22, failed again in business at 24, overcame the death of his sweetheart at 26, had a nervous breakdown at 27, lost a congressional race at 34, lost a congressional race at age 36, lost a senatorial race at age 45, failed in an effort to become vice president at 47, lost a senatorial race at age 49, was elected president of the United States at 52. This was Abraham Lincoln. Could he have become president if he had all these events in his life as failures? It's not likely. There's a story about Thomas Edison that he tried 9,999 times to perfect the light bulb and hadn't succeeded. Someone asked him, "Are you going to have 10,000 failures?" He answered, "I didn't fail. I just discovered another way not to invent the electric light bulb." He had discovered how another set of actions had produced a different result. Our doubts are traitors and make us lose the good we oft might win by fearing to attempt. William Shakespeare. Winners, leaders, masters, people with personal power all understand that if you try something and do not get the outcome you want, it's simply feedback. You use that information to make finer distinctions about what you need to do to produce the results you desire. Buckminster Fuller once wrote, "Whatever humans have learned to be learned as a consequence only of trial and error experience. Humans have learned only through mistakes. Sometimes we learn from our mistakes, sometimes from the mistakes of others. Take a minute to reflect on the 5 greatest so-called failures in your life. What did you learn from those experiences? Chances are they were some of the most valuable lessons you've learned in your life." Fuller uses the metaphor of a ship's rudder. He says that when the rudder of a ship is angled to one side or another, the ship tends to keep rotating beyond the helmsman's intention. He has to correct the rotation, moving it back towards the original direction in a never-ending process of action and reaction, adjustment and correction. Picture that in your mind. A helmsman on a quiet sea, gently guiding his boat toward its destination by coping with thousands of inevitable deviations from its course. It's a lovely image, and it's a wonderful model for the process of living successfully. But most of us don't think that way. Every error, every mistake tends to take an emotional baggage. It's a failure. It reflects badly on us. For example, many people get down on themselves because they're overweight. Their attitude about being overweight doesn't change anything. Instead, they could embrace the fact that they've been successful in producing a result called excess fat, and that now they're going to produce a new result called being thin. They would produce this new result by producing new actions. Find out what specific action that person produces mentally and physically to consistently remain thin. Produce the same actions and you will produce the same results. As long as you regard your excess weight as a failure, you'll be immobilized. However, the minute you change it to a result you produce, therefore one you can change now, then your success is assured. Belief in failure is a way of poisoning the mind. When we store negative emotions, we affect our psychology, our physiology, our thinking process, and our state. One of the greatest limitations for most people is their fear of failure. Dr. Robert Schuller, who teaches the concept of possibility thinking, asks a great question. What would you attempt to do if you knew you could not fail? Think about it. How would you answer that? If you really believed you could not fail, you might take a whole new set of actions and produce powerful, new, desirable results. Wouldn't you be better off trying them? Isn't that the only way to grow? So I suggest you start realizing right now, there's no such thing as failure. There are only results. You always produce a result. If it's not the one you desire, you can just change your actions and you'll produce new results. Cross out the word failure, circle the word outcome in this book, and commit yourself to learning from every experience. Lie number 3. Whatever happens, take responsibility. Another attribute great leaders and achievers have in common is that they operate from the belief that they create their world. The phrase you'll hear time and again is, "I am responsible. I'll take care of it." It's not coincidental you hear the same viewpoint over and over. Achievers tend to believe that no matter what happens, whether good or bad, they created it. If they didn't cause by their physical actions, maybe they did it by the level and tenor of their thoughts. Now, I don't know if this is true. No scientist can prove that our thoughts create our reality, but it's a useful lie. It's an empowering belief. That's why I choose to believe in it. I believe that we generate our experiences in life, either by behavior or by thought, and that we can learn from all of them. If you don't believe that you're creating your world, whether it be your success or your failure, then you're at the mercy of circumstances. Things just happen to you. You're an object, not a subject. Let me tell you, if I had that belief, I'd check out now and look for another culture, another world, another planet. Why be here if you're just a product of random outside forces? Taking responsibility is, in my opinion, one of the best measures of a person's power and maturity. It's also an example of beliefs supporting other beliefs, of the synergistic capabilities of a coherent system of beliefs. If you don't believe in failure, if you know you'll achieve your outcome, you have nothing to lose and everything to gain by taking responsibility. If you're in control, you'll succeed. John F. Kennedy had this belief system. Dan Rather once said Kennedy became a true leader during the Bay of Pigs incident when he stood before the American people and said the Bay of Pigs was an atrocity that should never have happened, and that he took full responsibility for it. When he did, he was transformed from an able young politician to a real leader. Kennedy did what every great leader must. Those who take responsibility are in power. Those who avoid it are disempowered. The same principle of responsibility holds true on a personal level as well. Most of us had the experience of trying to express a positive emotion to someone else. We try to tell someone we love them or we understand a problem they're having, and instead of getting that positive message, they pick up a negative one instead. They get upset or hostile. Often our tendency is to get upset right back, to blame them or to hold them responsible for whatever ill will is generated. That's the easy way out, but not always the wisest. The fact is, your communication may have been the trigger. You can still produce the communication result you desire if you remember your outcome. That is the behavior you want to create. It's up to you to change your behavior, your tone of voice, your facial expression, and so on. We say that the meaning of communication is the response you get. By changing your actions, you can change your communication. By retaining responsibility, you retain the power to change the result you produce. The fourth success lie: it's not necessary to understand everything to be able to use everything. Many successful people live by another useful belief. They don't believe that they know everything about something in order to use it. They know how to use what's essential without feeling a need to get bogged down in every detail of it. If you study people who are in power, you'll find they have a working knowledge about a lot of things, but often have a little mastery of each and every detail of their enterprise. By observing successful people to discover what specific actions they create to produce results, we are able to duplicate their actions and thus their results in much less time. Time is one of the things no one can create for you, but achievers invariably manage to be time misers. They exact the essence from a situation, take out what they need, and don't dwell on the rest. Of course, if they're intrigued by something, if they want to understand how a motor works or how a product is manufactured, they take the extra time to learn. But they're always aware of how much they need. They always know what's essential and what's not. I'll bet that if I asked you to explain how electricity works, you would come up with something between a blank and a sketchy answer. But you're still happy to flick the switch and turn on the lights. I doubt that many of you are sitting at home right now reading this book by candlelight. Successful people are especially good at making distinctions between what is necessary for them to understand and what is not. In order to effectively use the information in this book, in order to effectively use all that you are in this life, you should discover that there's a balance between use and knowledge. You can spend all your time studying the roots, or you can learn to pick the fruit. Successful people aren't necessarily the ones with the most information, the most knowledge. There are probably plenty of scientists and engineers at Stanford and Caltech who know more about computer circuitry than Steve Jobs or Steve Wozniak, but they were some of the most effective at using what they had. They were the ones who got results. Success lie number 5. People are your greatest resource. These aren't really lies, they're just beliefs. And they can be lies, is the point. Individuals of excellence, that is, people who produce outstanding results, almost universally have a tremendous sense of respect and appreciation for people. They have a sense of team, a sense of common purpose and unity. If there's any insight at the heart of the new generation of business books like Innovation and Entrepreneurship in Search of Excellence or The 1 Minute Manager, it's that there's no lasting success without rapport among people, that the way to succeed is to form a successful team that's working together. We've all seen reports on Japanese factories where workers and management in the same cafeteria and where both have input into evaluating performance. Their successes reflect the wonders that can be achieved when we respect people rather than trying to manipulate them. When Thomas J. Peters and Robert H. Waterman Jr., authors of In Search of Excellence, distilled the factors that made companies great, one of the key things they found was a passionate attention to people. There was hardly a more pervasive theme in excellent companies than respect for the individual, they wrote. The companies that succeeded were the ones that treated people with respect and with dignity. The companies that viewed their employees as partners, not as tools. They note that in one study, 18 out of 20 Hewlett-Packard executives interviewed said the company's success depended on HP's people-oriented philosophy. HP isn't a retailer dealing with the public or service company dependent on goodwill. It's dealing at the most complex frontiers of modern technology. But there it's clear that dealing effectively with people is seen as a preeminent challenge. Success lie number 6 is work is play. Do you know any person who has achieved massive success by doing what he hates? One of the keys to success is making a successful marriage between what you do and what you love. Pablo Picasso once said, "When I work, I relax. Doing nothing or entertaining visitors makes me tired." Maybe we don't paint as well as Picasso, but we can all do our best to find work that invigorates and excites us. And we can bring to whatever we do at work many of the aspects what we do at play. Mark Twain said the secret of success is making your vocation your vacation. That's what successful people seem to do. We hear a lot about workaholics these days, and there are some people whose work has become something of an unhealthy obsession. They don't seem to get any pleasure out of their work, but they reach the point where they can do anything else. Researchers are finding surprising things about some workaholics. There are some people who seem maniacally focused on work because they love it. It challenges them, it excites them, it makes them richer and makes their lives richer. These people tend to look at work the way most of us look at play. They see it as a way to stretch themselves, to learn new things, to explore new avenues. Are some jobs more conducive to this than others? Of course. The key is to work your way toward those jobs, one of those upward spirals. If you can find creative ways to do your job, it will help you to move toward work that's even better. If you decide work is mere drudgery, just a way to bring home a paycheck, chances are it will never be anything more. Success lie number 7. There's no abiding success without commitment. Individuals who succeed have a belief in the power of commitment. If there's a single belief that seems almost inseparable from success, it's there's no great success without great commitment. If you look at successful people in any field, you'll find they're not necessarily the best and the brightest, the fastest and the strongest. You'll find they're the ones with the most commitment. The great Russian ballerina Anna Pavlova once said, "To follow without halt one aim, there's the secret of success. It's just another way of stating our ultimate success formula. Know your outcome, model what works, take action, develop the sensory acuity to know what you're getting, and keep refining it until you get what you want. We see this in any field, even those where natural ability would seem to have the strongest hold. Tony Robbins gives the example of Larry Bird when they said he was too slow, or Pete Rose, or Tom Watson, the golfer. In all of these cases, they had this quality of commitment, and they practiced more and more, and it was the reason they were successful. They hustled. Commitment is an important component of success in any field. I just don't think you're really going to get too many people that are successful that haven't committed in some way, shape, or form to their success, haven't committed in some way, shape, or form to their goal. So there's a lot to unpack here that we've talked about, but there's some primary ideas that you should get out of these 7 keys to success and the 7 lies of success. And the one being is that you need to take responsibility for everything. Everything that happens in your life. If you have a car accident, if your business fails, it's you. Taking responsibility, even when it's not your fault, will be one of your magical powers. It underlies this ability to create your reality. And there is an important point made here that if you take on this belief that you create reality with your thoughts, it does not have to be true. If it turns out after 600 episodes of the Reality Revolution where I have clearly established that our thoughts create reality, if it turns out that all of it's not true, it's random, but you still had this belief, which may be a lie, a success lie, you will be more successful. You will have a happier life. It goes beyond just the thoughts that you have that create your reality. It goes into so much more. So when you take responsibility, it's the number one thing. If you come to me right now and you needed help, the first thing I would want to do is just say that you need to take responsibility. It's the first thing I say with anybody. Take responsibility for everything in your life. Some things are pretty hard to take responsibility for. We've been blaming other people and giving and pushing, sloughing off whatever problems we have on someone else. It's all your fault. The other thing is that if you have this belief that you will be successful no matter what, so no matter what comes up, everything is working to your advantage. Well, that is the key. There is 2 lies at the beginning that are kind of the same, but everything happens for a reason and a purpose, and it serves us. So as I said, my Facebook group got shut down. I started opening some other social media accounts, and maybe it'll turn out to be so much better and expand our reach of the Reality Revolution. You could have a flat tire. That's an example I always use. You could have a flat tire and it could be very frustrating, but it could mean that you don't have a car accident down the road. Everything is working to your advantage. Take that as a belief. If you go to the second level where we say that your thoughts create reality, imagine a reality where everything is working to your advantage. And so then when things happen, you're kind of excited. This new thing that came up that's not normal, that should be very stressful for me, is actually to a benefit. So let's see, at the time that I'm saying this now, I took that immediate thought process and I'm treating whatever is going on, and we'll see. This is a case study, an example to show you that it works. I promise you it will. There will be something that will come up from what happened to me in my Facebook group that will be to my benefit and advantage. It may be down the road for me to figure that out, but I look forward to the twist that I'm given as to why this turned out to be a good thing. And the second belief, there is no such thing as failure. Really, it's a very important thing. Whatever happens, if you mess up, if you fail, it's just another attempt. It's one of the things that has helped me with my podcast is that, I might have a bad episode, but just put out a new episode every day and I get better and better. So I would get so bothered. I might have an episode that I talk too fast in that one episode, and it would just bug me. Now, if I mess up, I know that I'm going to have another chance to make it better and better with each episode that I do. Every time I write, I may have a terrible day where I'm sitting and writing about stuff, but then you know what, if I come back to it the next day, some of that stuff I wrote is better, and I get better and better every single day. And I can just tell you, there is no such thing as failure. If you want to be successful at something, just do it every single day, and you'll get better and better. If you miss your mark, that's fine. If you're taking shots and working on it every day, those are the real fundamental things that are very powerful. But to go back to the Maxwell Maltz stuff, having courage, having a sense of direction, knowing where you're going, understanding, thinking beyond yourself, and when you start to help other people, and with confidence and esteem in yourself and self-acceptance, giving yourself beliefs that I do not think are lies. We can call them success lies, but I believe they're all true. And that is that everything is working to my advantage. There's no such thing as failure. And when you start to integrate all of these belief systems into an overall picture of what we've talked about, then you will be successful. If you take on these aspects of success and take on these belief systems that we've talked about, I guarantee you that you will find success, and it will happen faster and easier for you. So whatever it is that you want, whatever goal it is, anything is possible. The reason it doesn't happen for everybody is that something comes up and they give up, or they don't have the confidence to move on, or they don't think that everything's working to their advantage. They react so terribly to some thing that happens or comes up that they don't take it to the next step. You are unstoppable. You are unstoppable. Nothing can stop you. You can have anything. You can do anything. Anything is possible for you. All you have to do is pick your direction and start going in that direction. You gain an understanding of it. You act with courage. You start to think outside of just yourself. You think in a charitable way about what you're doing. And as you continue to do this, you think with esteem toward yourself, because if you don't think you can do it, then you'll never do it. So you think with esteem toward yourself, and then you use self-confidence, you gain self-confidence, you focus on increasing your own confidence, and you then accept yourself. Everything happens for a reason and a purpose. There's no such thing as failure. Whatever happens, take responsibility for it. It is not as necessary at all to understand everything to be able to use it. You do not have to be all knowledgeable about a subject. You just need to know how to use it. So don't let the information overwhelm you. And people are your greatest resource. Don't treat them, as Maxwell Maltz says, like they're machines or instruments or characters on a game board. If you focus on people, it will be a more successful thing. And treat the work that you have, the stuff that you have, like it's play. And whatever you do, you will never find success unless you completely commit to it. It's a simple synthesis of 14 important ideas, 7 aspects, and 7 belief systems. Take these on and watch your world change. Anything is possible for you, and you can achieve anything. I'd love to get your ideas of what you think about success, and if there is additional beliefs that we can add to being successful, put them in the comments. Let's really discuss what the best success beliefs are and what are additional aspects and keys that we can add to our success understanding. So just go down and look at the comments if you want to get further information. I'm asking everybody to share their own success stories. Make sure you put a like on this video and add some comments. And by doing so, more and more people will be able to see this video. And some people really need this. It's just a simple change in the way they think to have the whole world given to them. In any case, all episodes of The Reality Revolution can be found at therealityrevolution.com. And welcome to The Reality Revolution.